Welcome back to L&R Enigma. Tonight, we delve into a story that will make you question every creak and groan in your own home. This is the true story of a door that knocked by itself. Our story begins in 1998 in the quiet, rolling hills of rural Tennessee. The Wilkins family, a young couple with a newborn son, had just purchased what they thought was their dream home. It was a small, charming house, isolated and surrounded by nature. The perfect place to start a family. The first night was peaceful, filled with the gentle sounds of the countryside. But on the second night, something changed. A sound, sharp and insistent, shattered the silence. 3 distinct knocks echoed through the narrow hallway. K-N-O-C-K, knock, ... K-N-O-C-K. It sounded like someone was at the front door. The father, Mark, got up to check, but when he opened the door, there was nothing but the cool night air and the chirping of crickets. No one was there. He checked the windows, walked the perimeter of the house, and found no footprints, no signs of a visitor. Shrugging it off as a prank or perhaps a branch hitting the house, he went back to bed. The next night, it happened again, exactly at 3:11 a.m. 3 deep, resonant knocks. This time, both he and his wife, Sarah, heard it clearly. Once again, a search revealed nothing. This became their new, terrifying routine. Every single night, like clockwork, at precisely 3:11 a.m., the knocks would begin. They were always the same, 3 heavy thuds, seemingly coming from the solid oak front door. The family grew increasingly anxious. Sleep became a luxury they could no longer afford. The constant anticipation of the 3:11 a.m. event wore their nerves raw. They stopped inviting guests over, afraid of what might happen. The house, once a symbol of their future, now felt like a prison. Mark, a rational man, was determined to find a logical explanation. He checked the doorframe for any loose parts, inspected the surrounding trees for overhanging branches, and even set up animal traps, thinking a large raccoon or possum might be the culprit. But every morning, the traps were empty, and the mystery remained. Desperate for proof, Mark decided to capture the phenomenon on camera. He set up a video recorder on a tripod in the living room, aimed directly at the front door. He made sure the battery was full and a new tape was inside. As the clock ticked past 3:10 a.m., he sat on the couch, watching, waiting. The moment the clock struck 3:11, the camera's red recording light flickered and died. The screen went black. At that exact same instant, the knocks began. He tried again, the next night with a different camera. And the same thing happened, a sudden power failure at the crucial moment. It was as if whatever was causing the sound refused to be seen or recorded. Frustrated but not defeated, Mark changed his approach. If video wouldn't work, maybe audio would. He placed a small, sensitive microphone right next to the door, connected to a tape recorder in the other room. That night, he lay awake, listening. At 3:11 a.m., the knocks came as expected, but this time, he had something. The next morning, with trembling hands, he rewound the tape and pressed play. He heard the familiar 3 thuds, loud and clear. But as he listened closer, he heard something else. Something that made the blood freeze in his veins. Underneath the sound of the knocking, there was a faint, raspy whisper. He turned the volume all the way up. The voice was faint, but its words were unmistakable. "Let me in, let me in." A wave of pure terror washed over him. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't an animal. Something was outside his door, wanting to get inside. That night, they barricaded themselves in their bedroom, pushing a heavy dresser against the door. The knocking came louder and more frantic this time, accompanied by the chilling whisper, now seeming to come from all directions at once. They couldn't live like this anymore. The next day, Mark took a hammer and a box of long, thick nails. He sealed the front door shut, hammering nail after nail into the frame, creating a permanent barrier between his family and whatever was on the other side. They began using the back door exclusively, and for a while, it worked. The knocking stopped, the whispers ceased, a fragile sense of peace returned to the house. They started to sleep through the night again. For several months, the silence held. But the house wasn't finished with them. Their baby boy, who had just started to sit up and babble, began to exhibit strange behavior. He would sit on the living room floor, staring intently at the now silent nailed-shut front door. He would smile, giggle, and wave his little hands at the wall, as if playing with an unseen friend. At first, Sarah thought it was cute, but it soon became deeply unsettling. He was looking at something, interacting with something, that only he could see. His laughter, once a source of joy, now echoed with a sinister undertone in the quiet house. This was the final straw. The Wilkins family knew they had to leave. They packed their belongings in a single weekend, desperate to escape the unseen presence that haunted their home. But before they left for good, a morbid curiosity took hold of Mark. He had to know what was on the other side of that door. Armed with a crowbar, he began to pry away the boards and nails he had so desperately hammered in. It took considerable effort, but finally, the door creaked open. He braced himself, expecting to see something horrific on the porch. But the porch was empty, just as it had always been. Confused, he looked down at the door itself, and then he saw it. The inside of the door, the side that had faced into their home, was covered in deep, jagged claw marks. Scratches that started from the bottom and went all the way up, gouged deep into the wood. The marks were clearly made from the inside. Years passed. The Wilkins family never spoke of the house again. It was eventually sold to a new family, unaware of its history. The new owners decided to renovate, starting with a fresh coat of paint in the hallway. They painted the walls and the old oak door a bright, cheerful white. But the next morning, they found the paint on the door had peeled away in strange patterns, revealing the dark wood beneath. They assumed it was a problem with the paint or the wood, so they sanded it down and tried again. The same thing happened. Every night, at some point in the early hours, the paint would peel off the exact same spot on the door. It was then they started hearing the sounds. Faint at first, but growing stronger each night. A subtle, rhythmic tapping, right around 3:11 a.m. So if you ever hear a strange knock when you know no one is there, don't answer it, because sometimes whatever is making the sound isn't trying to come and it's trying to get out. Thanks for watching this chilling mystery. Subscribe to L&R Enigma for more haunting stories every week. Leave a like, share this video with someone who needs a good scare, and be sure to turn on that notification bell before something starts knocking at your door.